Joseph has revealed his true identity to his brothers. His brothers then go to the land of Canaan, back to their father, and tell them all that Joseph has been doing. And they take with them carts full of goods from Egypt. Seeing these carts full of these goods, Jacob is convinced and decides to take the trip to Egypt. There, the Pharaoh has promised them land and abundance. Will Jacob and Joseph finally be reunited? Will the Pharaoh give them this land in abundance that he's promised? Let's find out. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Tally Talks Bible. Where we last left off, Joseph had revealed his true identity to his brothers. His brothers then returned to their father and have taken a bunch of donkeys, a bunch of carts full of goods, and all this is taken so they can move all the people that are with them to Egypt. So, seeing all this and hearing everything that his sons has told him, Jacob, or Israel, is convinced and decides to go to Egypt at Joseph's request. So, with that being said, that's where this chapter is going to begin. It's going to talk about Jacob going to Egypt. And it's actually, for some reason, it wants to go ahead and give us a genealogy right here in the middle of this chapter. Again, I've said it before. The genealogies are important. And I feel like everybody should take the time and go read them themselves. However, I'm not going to sit here and bore y'all with reading off a bunch of names. So I'm going to start this chapter, and I'm going to read from verse 1 to, let's see, I think it's verse 6. Yeah. So verse 1 to verse 6, and then I'm going to skip from there, and then I think it was 20, yeah. And then I'll pick back up on verse 26. Between that, it's just a genealogy of all of the sons of Jacob, Israel, and then all of their sons, all their children. And I'm not going to bore you with all those details. So let's get started. It begins. So Israel set out with all that was his. And when he reached Beersheba, he offered sacrifice to the God of his father Isaac. And God spoke to Israel in vision at night and said, Jacob, Jacob. Here I am, he replied. I am God, the God of your father, he said. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there. I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will surely bring you back again. And Joseph's own hand will close your eyes. Then Jacob left Beersheba, and Israel's sons took their father Jacob and their children and their wives in the carts that Pharaoh had sent to transport him. So Jacob and all his offspring went to Egypt, taking with them their livestock and the possessions they had acquired in Canaan. Jacob brought with him to Egypt his sons and grandsons and his daughters and granddaughters, all his offspring. So actually, I read from 1 to 7. The genealogy starts on 8. So it makes this mention here that on the way to Egypt, out of Canaan, going to Egypt, that he stops at Beersheba and gives a sacrifice. This, to me, seems like because the Lord had told Jacob, hey, go to the land of your father, be in the land of your father in Canaan. That's where the Lord last spoke to him and told him to be. So I'm saying that he's making this sacrifice here to maybe get divine guidance from the Lord. And so he makes a sacrifice, and the Lord responds and says, hey, don't be afraid to go to Egypt. The Lord is saying, it's okay. You can go to Egypt. You can settle there for a time. And don't worry, I'm going to bring you back. So the Lord is telling him, you're going to go to Egypt for a while, but then you're going to come back. And he's telling him that Joseph is going to close his eyes, meaning that Joseph is actually going to bury him. And I believe this is reference to whenever Jacob does pass away, that he's going to be brought back to the land of Canaan for burial. And it just says that everybody's with them. It even says that it takes their possessions, even though the Pharaoh's like, hey, just leave all that behind. We got things here that are 10 times better than what y'all have. But they go ahead and bring their stuff anyway. Kind of reminds you of a little bit of Abraham when he left. The Lord told him to leave, and he ended up taking a bunch of stuff with him anyway when he was supposed to leave it behind. So, like I said, I'm going to skip over verse 8 through 25. Um, all that's doing, it's just basically telling you everybody that's there. Um, so I'm gonna pick up on 26, and it says, "All those who went to Egypt with Jacob, those who were his direct descendants, not counting his sons' wives, numbered 66 persons, with the 2 sons who had been born to Joseph in Egypt. The members of Jacob's family, which went to Egypt, were 70 in all. Now Jacob sent Judah ahead of him to Joseph to get directions to Goshen. When they arrived in the region of Goshen, Joseph had his chariot made ready and went to Goshen to meet his father Israel. As soon as Joseph appeared before him, he threw his arms around his father and wept for a long time. Israel said to Joseph, 'Now I'm ready to die, since I have seen for myself that you are still alive.' Then Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's household, 'I will go up and speak to Pharaoh, and will say to him, My brothers and my father's household, who are living in the land of Canaan, have come to me. The men are shepherds, they tend livestock, and they have brought along their flocks and herds and everything they own. When Pharaoh calls you in and asks, What is your occupation? You should answer, Your servants have tended livestock from our boyhood on, just as our fathers did. Then you will be allowed to settle in the region of Goshen, for all shepherds are detestable to the Egyptians.'" So here we are, Joseph, Jacob, Israel. I don't know why it tends to bounce around between Jacob and Israel. I don't know why they chose to do it that way, but that's the way they did it. But it bounces back and forth between calling him Jacob and Israel. But he finally has reunited with his son, and it's been roughly like around 20 years since they've last seen each other. You gotta remember when Joseph was sold into slavery, he was just like a teenager, and now here he is, a man ruling over Egypt, second in command next to the Pharaoh. But he does say, "I will go to the Pharaoh. Just tell them that you've been shepherds all your life, and you'll be able to go into the land of Goshen," which the Pharaoh had already told him, hey, he already knew all this. The Pharaoh had already agreed and said, y'all can go into the land of Goshen. That's fine. And it says that they're detestable to the Egyptians. I guess when they see shepherds, they think that they're like vying for resources. I guess with their livestock or whatever that they keep close to the city. So now the whole family, everybody, all the descendants, the brothers, the whole family of Israel is now in Egypt, and they're going to be settled in pretty well. I'm gonna start up here on verse 47. Excuse me, chapter 47. Joseph went and told Pharaoh, My father and brothers, with their flocks and herds and everything they own, have come from the land of Canaan and are now in Goshen. He chose 5 of his brothers and presented them before Pharaoh. Pharaoh asked the brothers, What is your occupation? Your servants are shepherds, they replied to Pharaoh, just as our fathers were. They also said to him, We have come to live here for a while, because the famine is severe in Canaan, and your servants' flocks have no pasture. So now, please, let your servants settle in Goshen. Pharaoh said to Joseph, Your father and your brothers have come to you, and the land of Egypt is before you. Settle your father and your brothers in the best part of the land. Let them live in Goshen. And if you know of any among them with special ability, put them in charge of my own livestock. Then Joseph brought his father Jacob in and presented him before Pharaoh. After Jacob blessed Pharaoh, Pharaoh asked him, How old are you? And Jacob said to Pharaoh, The years of my pilgrimage are 130. My years have been few and difficult, and they do not equal the years of the pilgrimage of my father. Then Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from his presence. So Joseph settled his father and his brothers in Egypt and gave them property in the best part of the land, the district of Ramses, as Pharaoh directed. Joseph also provided his father and his brothers and all his father's household with food according to the number of their children. So everybody's there. He chose to take 5 of his brothers instead of all of his brothers, and it doesn't say which brothers he took. Maybe the older ones, maybe somewhere in between. But he takes 5 of his brothers up as representatives to talk to the Pharaoh, and they tell him, "Hey, we're shepherds and all this, and please let us have land for our flocks because they have nowhere to graze." And this was already set up. This is what was going to happen. Pharaoh had already agreed to it, like I said a while ago. But the Bible likes to reiterate a lot. You'll find that the more you read, it likes to repeat itself. So Pharaoh has been blessed by Jacob now, and they're settling in and have been given food and everything. And it says here, this district of Ramses, which is just another way of saying Goshen. Um, so now all of Joseph's family and everything, they're all getting settled in and getting their own land and have food. But the famine is still going on. Just because they left Canaan doesn't mean the famine's over. I think it still has 5 years left at this point. There's still 5 years of famine left. So it's gonna pick back up here on verse 13 and talk about that. There was no food, however, in the whole region because the famine was severe. Both Egypt and Canaan wasted away because of the famine. Joseph collected all the money that was to be found in Egypt and Canaan in payment for the grain they were buying, and he brought it to Pharaoh's palace. When the money of the people of Egypt and Canaan was gone, all Egypt came to Joseph and said, "Give us food. Why should we die before your eyes? Our money is all gone." "Then bring me your livestock," said Joseph. "I will sell you food in exchange for your livestock, since your money is gone." So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and he gave them food in exchange for their horses, their sheep and goats, their cattle and donkeys. And he brought them through that year with food in exchange for all the livestock. When that year was over, they came to him the following year and said, "We cannot hide from our Lord the fact that since our money is gone and our livestock belongs to you, there is nothing left for our Lord except our bodies and our land. Why should we perish before your eyes? We and our land as well. Buy us and our land in exchange for food, and we with our land will be in bondage to Pharaoh. Give us seed so that we may live and not die, and that the land may not become desolate." So the famine is still raging on, and people are getting desperate. All the money, everybody has spent everything they had to buy the food from Joseph, who has all this grain stored up from the 7 years of abundance. He's got it all stockpiled. So now he's taking all the money in the area, in the land, and has now been given to Pharaoh in exchange for food. Now they have all the land's livestock. And the people are so desperate for food and survival that they're like, "Hey, take our land, take our bodies. We will work for you just for food. For no wages, just food, just so we will survive and not die." And Joseph listens to that, and he's going to tell them uh, what to do. And it's actually going to make things even better for them than what they were previously. So, picking back up on verse 20 here. So Joseph bought all the land in Egypt for Pharaoh. The Egyptians, one and all, sold their fields because the famine was too severe for them. The land became Pharaoh's, and Joseph reduced the people to servitude from one end of Egypt to the other. However, he did not buy the land of the priests because they received a regular allotment from Pharaoh and had food enough from the allotment Pharaoh gave them. That is why they did not sell their land. Joseph said to the people, "Now that I have bought you and your land today for Pharaoh, here is seed for you so you can plant the ground. But when the crop comes in, give a fifth of it to Pharaoh. The other 4/5 you may keep as seed for the fields and as food for yourselves and your households and your children." "You have saved our lives," they said. "May we find favor in the eyes of our Lord. We will be in bondage to Pharaoh." So Joseph established it as a law concerning land in Egypt, still in force today. The fifth of the produce belongs to Pharaoh. It was only the land of the priests that did not become Pharaoh's. What he's done here now is it's not they weren't put into like slavery. He's basically letting them still be, "Hey, here's the seed. Everything you grow is going to be yours. Just a fifth of it goes to Pharaoh." So that's still 80% that they're going to get to keep. So that really helps out, and that's going to change and improve everything. And everybody is like saying, you saved us," and everything is just going to start getting better. Now it's going to start talking about how long that Jacob has lived in the land, and Jacob is going to start. The time is going to start catching up with him. He knows that he's getting towards the end, so it's going to start up with that on verse 28, and it's going to continue on with chapter 48. Jacob lived in Egypt 17 years, and the years of his life were 147. When the time drew near for Israel to die, he called for his son Joseph and said to him, "If I find favor in your eyes, put your hand under my thigh and promise that you will show me kindness and faithfulness. Do not bury me in Egypt, but when I rest with my fathers, carry me out of Egypt and bury me where they are buried." "I will do as you say," he said. "Swear to me," he said. Then Joseph swore to him, and Israel worshipped as he leaned on the top of his staff. So here he is telling Joseph, "I'm about to die. Please don't let me die here, um, or don't let me be buried here." He knows he's going to die. He's not going to make it back to Canaan. So he just wants to be buried back in the land of his fathers, Isaac and Abraham. Which the Lord told him, Joseph will close your eyes, and you will come back here. And it's getting to that point. All right, we've got 3 chapters left here. Let me see something real quick. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to knock out chapter 48 here, and then I'll say 49 and 50 for the end. And that will be the end of Genesis. Kind of hard to believe that I've made that many videos to get through all of Genesis. Chapter 48 he's gonna start giving blessings to Jacob, Israel. He's gonna start blessing people before he passes away. And this chapter is gonna start out doing it with the sons of Joseph. And you're gonna start seeing some callbacks to the whole firstborn, secondborn thing in this chapter. And if you think about it, Joseph, he's not a second or thirdborn. He's technically a firstborn of Rachel, but he's the 11th son in the line of Israel. So let's begin on chapter 48. Sometime later, Joseph was told, "Your father is ill." So he took his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, along with him. When Jacob was told, "Your son Joseph has come to you," Israel rallied his strength and sat up on the bed. Jacob said to Joseph, "God Almighty appeared to me in Luz, in the land of Canaan, and there he blessed me, and said to me, I am going to make you fruitful and increase your numbers. I will make you a community of peoples, and I will give this land as an everlasting possession, your descendants after you. Now then, your 2 sons born to you in Egypt before I came to you here will be reckoned as mine. Ephraim and Manasseh will be mine, just as Reuben and Simeon are mine. Any children born to you after them will be yours in the territory they inherit. They will be reckoned under the names of their brothers." So, what he's doing here is he's basically telling Joseph, "I'm going to adopt your sons under the blessing that has been given to me." This is a callback all the way back to Abraham, all the way back to it was Abram before Abraham. He's repeating the covenant that has been established between this family. It's being reiterated that through our family, we're going to still have abundance of, children and goodwill and all this stuff that comes with being in the covenant with the Lord, which Joseph has seen a lot of already. He knows the Lord has blessed him, and that because he's been faithful and everything, that he's been there in Egypt thriving. So now he's getting ready that he wants to adopt Joseph's sons, even though they were born in the land of Egypt, into the covenant and give them an inheritance because they are, his family. I'm going to pick back up on verse 7. As I was returning from Padan, to my sorrow, Rachel died in the land of Canaan while we were still on the way, a little distance from Ephrath. So I buried her there beside the road of Ephrath, that is, Bethlehem. When Israel saw sons of Joseph, he asked, "Who are these?" "They are the sons of God. They are the sons God has given me here." Joseph said to his father. Then Israel said, "Bring them to me, so I may bless them." Now Israel's eyes were failing because of his old age, and he could hardly see. So Joseph brought his sons close to him, and his father kissed them and embraced them. Israel said to Joseph, "I never expected to see your face again, and now God has allowed me to see your children too." Then Joseph removed them from Israel's knees and bowed from Israel, and bowed down with his face to the ground. And Joseph took both of them, Ephraim on his right toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh on his left towards Israel's right hand, and brought them close to him. But Israel reached out his right hand and put it on Ephraim's head. Though he was the younger, and crossing his arms, he put his left hand on Manasseh's head, even though Manasseh was the firstborn. So right here we're seeing it, the way that Joseph has brought his children to his father is so, the right hand extended, that was going to be the firstborn blessing. That one gets all the inheritance, and there's going to be laws and all this stuff established later on. It talks about all this firstborn stuff. But even with him being there in front of him, and it makes mention that Israel, his sight's going out, he can't really see. Joseph's expecting him to go firstborn, secondborn, give them the blessing. But excuse me. But instead of doing that, what Israel does is he hits him with this. He crosses his hands and puts his right hand on the secondborn. And so now he's going to give the secondborn what Joseph feels is more the blessing, which this is just the way the Lord works. If you think about how things go throughout the Bible, it's always the underdog, and even gets up in that way with Jesus. Jesus is always picking, people who were in trouble or in a bad spot, people who were sinners and things like that. So now we're going to finish this out, and this is going to be the blessing upon Joseph's children. Then he blessed Joseph and said, may the God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked faithfully, the God who has been my shepherd all my life to this day, the angel who has delivered me from all harm, may he bless these boys. May they be called by my name and the names of my father Abraham and Isaac, and may they increase greatly on earth. When Joseph saw his father placing his right hand on Ephraim's head, he was displeased. So he took hold of his father's hand to remove from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. Joseph said to him, no, father, this one is the firstborn, but your right hand is on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He too will become a people, and he too will become great. Nevertheless, his younger brother will be greater than he, and his descendants will become a group of nations. He blessed them that day and said, in your name will Israel pronounce this blessing. May God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh. So he put Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. Then Israel said to Joseph, I am about to die, but God will be with you and take you back to the land of your fathers. And to you I give one more ridge of land than to your brothers, the ridge I took from the Amorites with my sword and bow. So there he goes, talking about, I know which son is which. I know which one's the firstborn, which one's the secondborn. But it's just a sense, a feeling that he has that's been given to him by God, that's saying this one right here, he's going to be even greater than the firstborn, which is a repeated thing throughout this whole narrative in Genesis. And it's going to keep repeating all throughout the Bible. And he also made mention that I'm going to give you more land as an inheritance there at the end of it. So that's going to be it for this. This is going to be Joseph Part 4. I will come out with a Part 5, and it's only going to consist of 2 chapters, so that video should be kind of shorter. But that's going to wrap up the Joseph series. Not to mention, that's going to wrap up Genesis. We're going to be getting into Exodus soon after that. And there's a lot of good stuff in Exodus. I know there's a lot of people real familiar with the story of Exodus. So that being said, I'd like to thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. And as always, God bless.